If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu, plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. Wrapping up week number 9 in the National Football League. I'm Jeff Parles. Ryan McCormick is here. Chris Andrews is here as well. Halfway home in the NFL season after tonight, young McCormick.
Yeah, going by way too fast.
Oh,
way too fast.
As Chris said to us before, life moves a little bit quick.
Yeah,
as you get older.
It all goes way too fast, believe me.
So
one good thing, by the way, little throwing this out to the media, I did not hear one time 4 weeks into the season that we're at the quarter pole. Maybe they have learned.
I only heard it one time.
I didn't hear it at all.
Once. But you're right. It's not.
Everybody, every year they would say, no, the quarter pole is when you got a quarter left.
Right. Yeah.
I never heard of one.
No, I only heard one person this year do it.
Who was that?
Well, I forget which podcast it was on, but it was only one. It was only one. Which
we're making progress.
You've made a lot of progress.
Made a lot of progress. It used to be every one of them.
It was everybody. It was everyone on that. But Chris, let's look at tonight's game before we dive backwards into the week that was. Because look, you guys are at 9. There's a bunch of 8.5 in the market on this game, but favorites once again. And you and I were having a discussion before the show. And we'll bring that discussion to the air on why. At least I think the favorites have been unbelievable the last 5 weeks. Favorites, only one outright loser yet this week.
Yeah.
That was New Orleans.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen got fired this morning after losing 7 straight games. Every other favorite won outright, and 10 covers from the favorites, correct?
Yes.
10 covers
10
this
and
week
4
from the favorites heading into tonight's game. So it's just another week, another domination by the favorites in the NFL again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's kind of no stopping it at this point. You know, we have the rich and the poor, in society, in college football, and now even in pro football. What happened to that parody I used to read about?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And, so for tonight, you're at 9. Again, you said you moved the Chiefs' money line a little bit as well.
That. I moved that. I got a couple of whacks on it, and then we moved it back. We're in line. I had to go to 9.5 for just a little bit. We took some money at plus 9.5. I'm at 9 now. I can see going to 8.5 though. And by the way, if you're going to bet against the Chiefs, bet against them when they're at home. Everybody's it's so hard to win at Arrowhead. They're not a cupcake on the road either. By the way,
they're tough to beat anywhere.
So you just get a couple extra points when you're playing them at home. I mean, I guess, gun to my head, I kind of like Tampa, but I'm not crazy about them. I mean, I think the number's right there.
Yeah, Tampa, again, still no Chris Godwin. Not going to see him again this year. No Mike Evans. We're not going to see him until December. Tampa's defense, and Ryan and I will go through the props a little bit later.
Yep.
Tampa's defense has been a nightmare, honestly, since week 2, which is kind of amazing for what that team was a year ago, where Baker was good enough, and that defense really carried the day. This year, it's Ryan, when they've stayed in games, it's because Baker Mayfield's had huge days.
Exactly.
And it's hard for him now, without his top 2 weapons, to stay in games.
Yeah, and the last 2 weeks, we've kind of seen the emergence of Cade Otton, with him being the only target left for Baker Mayfield to really trust. And now we might have Rashad White dealing with injury, so kind of more competition in the backfield. So this week, with Rashad White being a little hampered and Bucky Irving kind of taking that role over. But going to be a little bit of a question mark on offense for both of these teams.
Yeah, Chiefs, again, their defense. Chris, you, me, and Vinny talked about this on Friday. To me, they're the number 1 unit in the NFL, period. And you only have Patrick Mahomes on the other side.
Yeah.
So
he tends to win a lot of games, I think chances are he's going to win this one, too, but I don't know if that means by 9.5 or not.
Yeah, this also kind of feels like I know Kansas City's been trending under this year because of that defense and Mahomes' struggles. This might be an over game tonight just based off the nature
They're
of
betting us over. And I don't know. I think if Tampa does cover and win, I think you're probably looking at a good parlay dog and under, one of those deals.
Chris, just going back and actually, we're kind of doing it all at once here, because a public team that is an absolute shambles right now, they're not one of the 9 2-win teams in the NFL. That's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they have more than 2. Slightly.
Yeah, they have 3. They have 3 wins.
Yeah.
Prescott's going to be on the shelf for a while with a hammy, and Cooper Rush is going to be the starter. And this week they draw Philadelphia, who, in a game that they were up 22-0 and needed a stop at the end of the game to win. It's funny, things are going really badly for Nick Sirianni, where the Eagles are arguably the hottest team in the NFL right now, and everyone wants him out still. It just shows how bad the decision making is, and look, in the past, our old friend Gil brought up the McCarthy tax when talking about Dallas. Yeah. There's a Sirianni tax for sure when talking about Philadelphia now. I mean, it's 7.5 in a division game, and you're getting it at home with Dallas, even with how big of a mess they are, with Micah Parsons probably coming back this week.
Yeah.
I don't normally give out bets on Monday, but I don't know how much higher this can go at this point. And if it does, I mean, you just wait it out and just take it with Dallas. This kind of reeks. Remember when Dak got hurt a few years ago, Chris? And it was immediately week 2, Cooper Rush against the Bengals, and the entire world was on Cincinnati, and Dallas won the game outright as more than a touchdown dog at home. Kind of reeks of that to me.
Jeff, I've been doing this a long time, and I could tell you that first game after the injury, not over the course of the season, but first game after the injury, the team often rallies and plays way above their heads. Now, week 2, week 3, not so much. But week 1, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I thought, I knew that I knew what was going on, and I had this number like 6, assuming if Dak did play, he was going to be very hobbled. Then when I heard he wasn't playing, I went along with it. Okay, go ahead, go to 7. And glad I did, because now we're at 7.5. But I got to tell you, I think 7.5 is just too high for a team like this. And the Syria, he made some of the worst coaching mistakes. I mean, what was the repeatedly going for 2?
Well,
I didn't understand.
The one, look, he was committed to the act by the time once he got to the second and third one, but. The first one was illogical. You're up 16-0. Go make it a 17-0 game. Again, look, credit to the Jags for somewhat getting out of the hole. And then Lawrence,
terrible interception.
That last drive, even though they got the ball all the way down there, Trevor Lawrence threw 5 totally inaccurate passes, and still they almost scored at the end. But again,
you mentioned our friend Gil. When I was on Gil's show, and he and I agreed. I think he's good, but he was the second coming of Andrew Luck. No chance.
No way.
No chance.
No. He's the only one left from that draft on his original team, though. It just shows how bad that draft ended up being from a quarterback perspective.
I don't think his coming one's that good either.
I don't necessarily know how bad the quarterbacks themselves were, just how bad the situations that those quarterbacks fell into were. The luck that they got to go into, like Jet situation, the Bears situation, the Jags situation, the Patriots situation, none of those were good situations for those quarterbacks to fall into. But regardless. anyway, going back to the point of Cooper Rush, just a note there.
Okay.
In his starts, Cowboys are 5-1, including going on a 4-win streak when Dak Prescott got hurt a couple years ago.
I think it was a game against Philly that ended that streak too, as well, on a Sunday night.
26-17.
Yeah, where I think Philly covered that number, if memory serves me. I think it's 7.5, won by 9, like you said, Ryan.
Let me take a look.
Just double check me on that. Chris, going to the conversation you and I were having before the show.
All right.
And I'm operating under this for why the favorites have just been outrageously good this year in the NFL. There are 9 teams currently. 9. Was I off on that
spread? Yeah, they didn't cover that game.
Was it 10?
It was 6.5.
No, Philly covered, I was saying.
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right. I knew it was on Philly in that game. But the 9 teams have 2 wins exactly right now.
Yeah.
And you look at that, where usually it's a balance of all right, you got, at this point in the year, you probably have about 2 1-win teams, a handful of 2-win teams, and usually the 3-win teams are clocking in as about the 6th or 7th worst teams in the NFL. But because there is just more than a quarter of the league is bad right now. I know Miami's in there with 2 wins, probably not as bad as those other 8, but it all makes sense on why the favorites have been so good, because you have a quarter of the league, and this normally doesn't happen, like you said, in the NFL earlier, but you have a quarter of the league these teams are genuinely terrible at this point. With 8 of those 9, I'm not willing to fully put Miami as healthy in there, but they're one of those 2-win teams of that 9 bunch right now.
I think a lot of it can go back to quarterbacks, like we talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Giants, Jones. He's certainly in the bottom quarter of the league, I would say. But how much money did they pay this guy?
Too much.
Yeah,
and now you got, you have salary cap issues. To look at Dallas next year. What do they say? 45% of the salary goes to 2 players.
Dak and
Both
Lamb.
happen to be injured this week. Dak and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I think they're mismanaging. I mean, it's easy for me to say at this point, but they're mismanaging the salary cap because they have to invest. They feel they have to invest in some of these quarterbacks. I've been a big Baker Mayfield fan. I've always liked him, but they gave this kid a lot of money, and I'm not sure he's quite in that elite league. And Jones, forget about it. What's it, $45 million or something like that?
You're 40.
I mean, that's just too much that you're putting on guys who are not producing. And that's what I think that's a big problem. And like I said, I root for the league. I want the league to do well. And I think that's something that needs to be corrected.
Well, Daniel Jones did finally throw a touchdown at home again.
Yeah.
He also had 0 passing yards in the first half, which was one of the more ridiculous box
4 for
scores
6 for 0
I've ever
yards
seen. Washington, fortunate to cover. If you had him yesterday, the Giants missed 2-point conversions in that fourth quarter as well. Man, there's 9 2-win teams, and again.
Yeah. Who are the quarterbacks on those?
So
two teams?
Part of the reason I threw Miami out of the mix, even though they're 2-6, they're clearly better than the bottom 8.
They are, but another team that invested a lot of money in a quarterback who's had health problems.
Yeah, he's played well, but he hasn't been on the field.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, 2-win teams right now.
Go ahead.
New England Patriots rookie Drake May. By the way, I thought Drake May looked good again yesterday.
He might be good.
Yeah, he looked good yesterday.
Maybe not next week, but eventually he's going to be good.
Year or two down the line when there's more talent around him.
Yeah.
He's going to be okay. Good. Cleveland. Obviously, we know what's going on there. Watson and now Jameis Winston. By the way, Ryan, you said Jameis Winston is now second in the NFL in interceptable passes that have been dropped, and he's only started 2 games.
Come on.
Yeah. leader of the league is Matthew Stafford. Second is Jameis Winston.
He's the most entertaining guy in the league. Still.
Without a doubt.
Still. 2 in Tennessee, Mason Rudolph, Will Levis.
Okay.
2 in Jacksonville, Lawrence, who's probably the best quarterback out of this bottom quarter. The Raiders, they
only fired 3 offensive coordinators.
Which, by the way, that's another thing you and I talked about before the show, Chris. You have a team with 3 bad quarterbacks in Minshew, O'Connell, and now Desmond Ridder is probably going to be the starter after the bye. You have next to no talent at running back. You have a bad offensive line. And with Devontae Adams gone, your best weapon's Brock Bowers. What did you expect out of Luke Getsy? What did you expect? Look, I've been vindicated already on Pierce. He's going to be one and done at this rate with how bad that's gone for the Raiders at 2-7. Giants 2-7. Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
No one in the NFC North. Everyone's still 500 or better than that, even though it doesn't feel like that for Ryan at the moment.
No, it's taking a steep drop off. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. New Orleans. Derek Carr. Did you see the stat yesterday with Derek Carr? Actually, Chris. Did you see this, Ryan? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think I know what you're talking about.
So, the Family Matters one, which is one of the funny. Josh Dublow of the AP tweeted this out yesterday, and it's one of the finest stats of all time. I just have to pull it up. There we go. Most losses as a starting quarterback through X. 4 seasons, it's David Carr with 43. 5 seasons, it's David Carr with 53. 6, it's David Carr with 56. At 7, it's Derek Carr with 63. At 8, it's Derek Carr with 70. 9, Derek Carr at 79. 10, Derek Carr with 87. And at 11, Derek Carr is currently tied with Archie Manning at 91. Derek Carr will, without a doubt, barring something crazy, will have that by himself by the end of this season.
That is incredible. Incredible. Oh, my God.
The other 2-loss team that we didn't mention is Carolina, where Bryce Young, Andy Dalton. By the way, Carolina and the Giants playing in Germany this week. We apologize, which is kind of funny. With the Giant number kind of like, whoa, wait a second. How could it be favored by that much against anyone? But then you remember it's Carolina on the other side of things.
Yeah, totally mismanaged a lot of those teams and players. I'm going to stand by that. We talked about it on the show the other day, how they're not developing quarterbacks. Right. And, your guy in Chicago, I think he's going to be okay. Daniels, he's okay
Daniels
now.
Is already there.
Yeah, he's okay now. Yeah. You got C.J. Stroud, who, he's not quite as good as he was last year, I don't think, because he caught a lot of teams by surprise last year. But he's fine.
I think he'll be fine, but the one thing with watching Houston a lot closer the last few weeks, they don't get that offensive line fixed down the road. Forget it. They're gonna really impact Stroud's ability, especially that interior line, which is just as brutal as anyone.
Who are they playing this week?
Houston is playing Detroit. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because money's shown on Houston this week.
Yeah, it's a weird spot for Detroit.
That, a lot of money shown on them so far.
Detroit, by the way, who will have our power rankings on Thursday. Depending on tonight, Detroit's probably going to be number 1 on both of ours.
Well, they were number 1 last week.
No, I know they were for you, but I'm probably moving them up unless if Kansas City just puts it on Tampa tonight, which they're more than capable of. All right, Chris, before we let you go back to work, I just want to ask you on the college front, where we have 2 mega games in the SEC this week, an elimination game in LSU, Alabama, and an elimination game for Ole Miss as they host Georgia. And Ole Miss was unbelievable and you gave it out on Friday. You took $2 on it for the whole weekend,
we
right?
We had 1 ticket for $2. Thank goodness nobody was paying attention to me when I gave that out. I said they were the best. They had a good shot to be the highest scoring, and they were 30-1. I have this. Like I said, I call it a formula. Ed Feng would laugh at it, say that's not a formula. Here's a formula from Stanford. But I have kind of a little pattern, let's call it that I go by. So I put it just numbers, boom, boom, boom. And you told me on the show, you got them 30-1. Do I really?
The weird part about that, if you look on our screen right now, that total was 53.5 for that game.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss went over and quite frankly, 63 was basically the minimum they could have scored in that game with how Arkansas played.
Yeah. I went back and moved it there. I said, because like I said, I do have a, like a quasi formula.
Right.
But that one number was way too high.
Well, I will tell you this week, more so than the Alabama LSU game, which, look, it is what it is. It's an elimination game that everyone gets up for that game. Yeah. But Ole Miss, 2.5-point home dog right now against Georgia at home. That number is going to spur action through the week just because of what it is, Chris.
Yeah, Georgia, every time I'm ready to just totally believe in them, they just aren't quite what they should be. I mean, if you look on paper, and they really should be I saw they should be at the top. You have them number 2.
Yeah.
I think I have them number 3.
It's so close right now.
Yeah.
Between
I
1,
think
2,
I
and
have,
3.
I remember I have Oregon below them. But anyway, if you look at the talent and the roster and the coaching staff and all that, they should be, clearly number 1 with maybe Ohio State. But we keep making excuses for them, and I don't know how long you could do that.
It's Ryan. Probably you'll agree with me on this. Is Carson Beck? Carson Beck's thrown 11 interceptions. And
he's been, he went from the pretty obvious number 1 choice to mid-first round. Yeah, they always overrate quarterbacks, but
I would.
He dropped down.
But and I'll say this. I can't believe I'm about to say this sentence, but if Lagway didn't hurt himself in that game, Florida might have pulled that thing off, because that was a tie game. That was before the ridiculous thing with the horrible snap on the field goal.
Yeah,
that was a dead even game.
Yeah, it was.
And then Georgia really took the game over because of that.
Yeah, one play can definitely alter a game or sometimes a season.
Yeah,
Chicago.
Sorry, Ryan. Valid, very valid.
Florida did get the money, by the way, on the point spread. They covered all numbers that were out there, so you at least got there.
What was it, by 14? Was that the final?
15. Georgia won by 2 touchdowns. Florida was 15 or 14 and a half. They got there on all numbers.
Yeah.
Chris,
gentlemen,
thank you as always.
Have a good show.
We'll see you. We'll see you again on Friday, and we'll also see you through the week on Punchlines. Well, it's Friday on Punchlines now because you're now Judge Andrews on.
Well,
Friday.
I'm Judge Andrews tomorrow on Punchlines too. We have a special because Alex White is there, and she acquiesced to be debating Frankie with the judge.
Okay, all right. Be on
try
the
to be
lookout for
fair.
that Punchlines FM.
Try to be
No,
fair.
well, that's all about being on the bench. You got to be fair, right, Chris?
Well, I'm not joking. People over the years have told me you'd have been a good judge, and a bookmaker, that's what you want.
Basically, what it is.
And I always have the one story. And I forget, LSU was playing somebody, and one of these Southern guys can't make that number high enough. I said, really? Would you take 100? Well, yeah, I'd take 100. Okay, do another number somewhere between Pick'em and 100, and that's my job is to find out where that is. So, see you later,
Chris Andrews, everyone. All right, Ryan. Let's look at tonight. Chiefs 9-point favorites. There's a bunch of 8.5 in the market as well on this game. Total's 46 from 44.5 earlier in the week. So we mentioned it. Favorites have only lost outright once this week. That was New Orleans, who dominated the box score, but found a way to lose to still the NFL's worst, even though they're in a 9-way tie now with two wins. Favorites 10-4 this week. Somehow I managed to be on 2 of the favorites that lost, which is pretty impressive. Well, that didn't cover, but I did have Carolina outright, so that was good.
All right.
This is a very difficult handicap game when we're just like, if you have Kansas City in your money line parlays, you should be okay here tonight. But if we're looking spread and total here, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Because Kansas City, as Chris said, usually this is the time to bet against them on the point spread when they're at home. Now, you look at their home games so far this year. They've played 3 home games. They covered week 1 against Baltimore. They did not cover against Cincinnati in week 2. And they covered against New Orleans a few weeks ago, now a month ago, basically, on October 7th. So they're 2-1 against the number at home, which is much better than they've been at home during this stretch with Mahomes, where they were actually underwater at home against the number for all of last year, and for a chunk of it 2 years ago as well. They only won the Lombardi both of those years. So I don't know what to do on the side here, Ryan. The total, which we'll get to in a second, at least for me, is a little more intriguing on this one tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do on the side either. I went and looked at some stats. Monday nights. So Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football is 7-3 straight up, 5-4-1 against the spread.
Okay.
8-2 to the under. Patrick Mahomes has not played a road game on Monday night since 2020. So 2 games last year at home, game in 2022, and a game in 2021, all at home on Monday night. These Chiefs are 2-2 in that stretch, 0-4 against the spread, and 1-3 to the over, so 3-1 to the under. Chiefs haven't looked dominant at home on Monday night. with those trends, but Patrick Mahomes does have a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio on Monday night, so doesn't turn the ball over, finds the end zone in typical Patrick Mahomes fashion. But on the other side, Baker Mayfield is 1-6 straight up and against the spread on Monday Night Football. Has lost 6 straight up and against the spread. Has not won since his first Monday Night Football game in 2019. So Baker Mayfield also has a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Not good when going against this Chiefs team. Numbers would say Chiefs leaned the cover, but under on the total for sure for the trends.
Oh, I'll go against the trend here tonight because Tampa's defense.
On the total, I completely agree with you.
We're going on the total here. Again, if you made me bet the side, I'd lay it with Kansas City, but I would not be overly confident because that back door back door should be open, even with how great Kansas City's defense is. And again, I have them as the number 1 unit in the NFL, period, right now. Tampa's offense, even without Godwin and Evans, still has had enough to at least move the ball a little bit. And that's a testament to Baker Mayfield, who's really had a great year. But Tampa's defense, Ryan McCormick, if we just look at Tampa's defense here, against Atlanta last week, Kirk Cousins had another huge game. 6.6 yards per play for Atlanta last week. The week before that, Baltimore had 9.4 yards per play in that game. 9.4. That's outrageous.
Atrocious, yeah.
Outrageous for Baltimore. The Spencer Rattler game, New Orleans had 4.6. All right, whatever. It's Spencer Rattler. That's still higher than it should have been.
Right.
Even though it was actually about league average, which you want New Orleans to be sub 3 in that game, and they weren't.
Right.
The ridiculous overtime game, which really has kind of caused the season to go sideways for Tampa, Atlanta was 6.8 yards per play. So right now we're at 3 games where against real offenses where Tampa's defense has been awful. These are all after the month of October started. The last time their defense played well was when they destroyed the Eagles, when the Eagles were at their bottom this year. 4.1 yards per play for Philadelphia and a 33-16 win for Tampa. You tell me Kansas City's not going to be able to move the ball here tonight?
Right.
And we've been waiting for Kansas City's offense to really have one of those explosion games. And their high watermark this year is 28, which was that game against the Niners, which really points were set up because Purdy kept turning the ball over.
Yep.
The last week was really the first, this looks more like Kansas City's offense game, and look who the opponent was. Yeah. It was an opponent with a bad defense in the Raiders, even with an elite pass rusher. Oh, and by the way, even with that, they still only had 5 yards per play. They haven't had the high 20s with real yardage per game yet in Kansas City. This feels like the night where the dam bursts for Kansas City's offense. Now, in order to get over in this, if Kansas City gets to 31,
oh yeah,
Tampa should be able to get 17 in this game, and you should be able to get there. I would very much look for the best number. There's a lot of 45.5. See if you can even get a 45 by the time the game kicks. I don't think you will, but I do like this game over tonight because this Tampa defense the last month has just been awful against real quarterbacks, and they're going against the realest of the bunch here tonight.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I did get the over 45
Good work.
A couple days ago. But if we want to take a look at the Kansas City props for certain players tonight, looking at Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, and DeAndre Hopkins, the starting running back, starting tight end, and starting wide receiver for these Kansas City Chiefs. Kareem Hunt is 3-1 as a Chief this season on his rushing attempts and rushing yards. He is 2-2 on his total yardage and 0-4 on his receptions. He has a 3-game streak of over on attempts and his anytime touchdown. So if you think the game script is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, take a big lead in this one. They are going to run the football with Kareem Hunt. He should go over that 20.5 attempts. I also do have his over rushing yards in the back pocket. I think it, to Jeff's point, is going to be a big game for this Chiefs offense. Kareem Hunt over 65.5 rushing yards is something that I do like. Not necessarily big on the receptions, just because I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to have to dump the ball off with that defensive front for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Travis Kelce has gone over in 3 of 7 games this season on his receptions and on the total and on the yards, but has gone over on those in 3 of the last 4 and got his first touchdown of the season last week. So you see when the Chiefs offense started the year not looking like themselves, and in the recent weeks, losing Juju Smith-Schuster, losing Rashee Rice, losing the weapons that they needed in order to make the move for DeAndre Hopkins, we're seeing that offense come back to using Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, that tandem, that Hall of Fame tandem that has won them now 3 Super Bowls. And then, so it could be good to look at his over on yardage receptions. And when he does go over his yardages, he has gone over that longest reception prop of 20.5. So if you think a big game for the Chiefs, big game for Travis Kelce, you have to think he is going to get that longest reception. And then looking at DeAndre Hopkins, who's only been in this Chiefs offense for 1 week, had 3 targets last week and only caught 2, but did have 10 yards per target. In 1 week, in a few practices with the Chiefs, he was getting 10 yards per target when seeing the field. So you have to think with an extra week of practice, if Patrick Mahomes needs to throw the ball, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be able to spread the field for him. They're going to be able to get depth in his targets. So if you do like DeAndre Hopkins tonight, you have to like his overs on the receptions and the yardage, as well as the longest yardage.
Well, let's go to Kelce real quick, because that's where my eyes go on everything, because we've talked about how bad the Tampa defense has been recently. Let's go with how they've done against tight ends the last month.
Yeah,
you ready
let's
here?
do it.
All right. The first game on that Thursday night ridiculous game where Atlanta came back and won. So this is the first of the 4 games. Kyle Pitts, who had been invisible for a good chunk of the year, had 7 for 88. No scores, but 7 for 88. At that time, it had been his biggest game of the year. Against New Orleans, Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson, 5 catches for 102 between the 2 of them. Okay, not good, especially when Rattler's the one throwing them the ball.
Yep.
The third game in this stretch, Baltimore, which we know has multiple good tight ends. All right, they did okay yardage-wise. 6 catches for 58 yards between Andrews and Likely, and I guess you can add 1 for 14 in there with Kolar as well.
How many times did Mark Andrews find the end zone?
Don't worry, I'm getting to that. So between the 3 tight ends, 7 catches for 72 yards. All right, not great, but not disastrous. Andrews scored twice after scoring only once before that this season.
Yep.
Then the rematch with Atlanta last week, after another few weeks slumber, Kyle Pitts had arguably his best game since his rookie year, 4 catches for 91 and 2 touchdowns. So Tampa's had no clue how to cover the tight end. All the Kelce props are going over tonight. At least the yardage and the anytime touchdown, at least for me.
I like the anytime touchdown.
Even if you're getting a plus price on Kelce anytime, I think you just got to take it. And if it doesn't get there, so be it. Which you can get even at DraftKings still. Again, odds are subject to change. I also would go with Noah Gray as well if we're going down the board for the exact same reasons that I just said. Tampa has had a horrible time covering the tight ends, and Gray, who does get utilized in this offense, makes a whole lot of sense. If you really wanted to get crazy, where's there? Oh, he's not even on there. I was looking for my guy Jody Fortson, but he's not even listed.
Yeah, I only put 18.
He's not even listed on DK, right? DK? But forget your board. He's not even listed on anything right now. So that Kansas City tight ends. For the anytime touchdown market, be willing to take that. Be willing to take Kelce's I would go yardage and anytime touchdown over. You can take the receptions too. Just tread a little carefully on that because it's such a high number.
I agree with that.
For Kelce. On the you want to go to Tampa side?
I also Travis Kelce is 11-4 on Monday night. Has 13 touchdowns in 15 games.
Not bad.
That's not bad at all. It is definitely worth it to take it tonight. Yeah, but we can go over to the Tampa Bay Bucs side.
Yep.
So I decided to look at Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan, and Cade Otton on this graphic.
Are we operating with McMillan as the number 1 wide receiver tonight for Tampa?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I do like Cade Otton here. He has exploded for this Tampa Bay offense. He is the one receiver left that Baker Mayfield trusts. So in the last 2 weeks, Cade Otton has 20 targets. In the last 6, he has 47. has gone over that longest reception of 18.5 in 3 of the last 4. So thinking that Otten is the only guy that Baker is going to go to consistently tonight, I like the overs. I won't be playing the $2, so I won't be playing the receptions, but the yardages and the longest receptions I do have plays on. And then looking at Jalen McMillan, he will be the number 1 receiver for them tonight. He has 15 targets in the last 2 weeks after only having 7 in the first 6. So losing Chris Godwin, losing Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, and this offense has turned to Jalen McMillan to be their wide receiver 1. And I'm thinking they're going to scheme short yardage, trying to get him yak. So a good play might be on the over 3.5 receptions. And then also now looking at the running back, looking at Bucky Irving, he's gone over that 8.5 attempts in 7 of 8 games this season. That's with Rachaad White playing in some of those games. So I still like his over on attempts. He's gone over on his receptions. Last week, 7 targets, 7 catches in that first game without Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. So Bucky Irving was the guy that Baker Mayfield was dumping it off to, also missing Rachaad White. So that's why you're
Definitely
seeing the
helped.
7. But I'm liking the overs for Cade Otton yardage, longest reception, and Bucky Irving attempts tonight.
I just throw this out there real quick. Both Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan are working out right now to make sure they're even going to play tonight.
Yeah.
They're both nursing the same injury. The hamstrings have not been good in Tampa this year. Obviously took out Mike Evans, and now it could be tonight. They did elevate, here's a name from the past, Marquez Callaway. That's a name we haven't heard in a long time. Yeah. They've elevated him from the practice squad. So one of those 2 guys, of McMillan and Shepard, might not be able to go tonight based off of that. So be aware of that. And that's why I'm attacking Trey Palmer. That's the guy that I would look at.
Did he tweet that he woke up angry?
I did not see, but he was nursing a cold earlier in the week, according to his Twitter account. So,
do you know that trend?
Oh yes, I know. I know. When he does it, it's usually a good day.
Trey
for
Palmer,
him.
Anytime he woke up angry or feeling angry, that day he scored a touchdown. I think 5 of 7. He didn't score the last time he tweeted it, but
he tweeted it last week. But that the guy, and then I know will be out there that I would look at. Otten is fine. If you want to take Otten props, even though they're elevated because of the lack of weaponry, there's no problem on that. If you wanted to do that angle as well. The quarterbacks, real quick, kind of feels like, even though it's a high number, you kind of have to justify to go over Baker Mayfield pass attempts here, just because of Tampa's lack of a run game and the fact that they're almost certainly going to be chasing this game. Mayfield to throw 40 passes, if you can find an alt one and get a nice plus price, I wouldn't mind that here tonight. Also like Baker to throw an interception. Don't love that it's $1.50, but feels pretty good that he's going to throw one here tonight. Mahomes is a complete stay away altogether on Patrick Mahomes. Props at the numbers that are on the screen in front of you. It would only be about Baker if we're looking at quarterbacks here tonight.
I do think it is funny that Patrick Mahomes is a plus price on his interception, and he's thrown an interception every single game this season. So, I mean, I would be wary. I don't necessarily think I'm going to play that one. But if you want to root against Patrick Mahomes, why not take the plus price on his interception? He has decided to throw the ball where he shouldn't a couple times this season.
Ryan, you're going to have to change your outlook on your wide receivers. Jalen McMillan is officially out here tonight. Shepard's in, so that's the guy who ends up playing. So toss out everything Ryan said on Jalen McMillan.
Didn't say much. But.
And buy your, at least for me, buy your Trey Palmer stock now, because it's going to move.
Yep.
It's going to move real quick, and I'm trying to get some more of it right now, actually, Ryan. So I'm going to give you the floor here to cover me while I'm making a bet.
Let me see Trey Palmer updated touchdown numbers. Trey Palmer is a plus 340.
Still solid.
Sterling Shepard 285. Cade Otton is 210. But even still, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Cade Otton, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer are the guys that are going to score if the Buccaneers do score a touchdown. Those are going to be the guys to do it, and all of them are plus $2. So just take a chance on any Buccaneer tonight to score a touchdown, and there's a good chance you'll at least make even if you take multiple. So, yes. And then looking at those quarterbacks, looking at Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield has gone 6-2 to the over on his passing completions and passing touchdowns this season. Again, going against a Chiefs defense that is stout. So I would be wary on that one. 4-4 to the over on attempts, but over in 4 of the last 5. So with the Bucs needing to play catch up, just like Jeff said, I do like the over on the attempts. I haven't played it, but I do like it. Over. He is 5-3 to the over on his passing yards and over in 4 of the last 5. So if you think the Bucs are going to have to keep in this game, Baker Mayfield's going to have to throw it. He's going to have to complete those passes. So could be over on pass completions, pass attempts, and passing yards for Baker Mayfield.
I at least got my a little bigger piece of Palmer's touchdown. Everything else locked.
Okay.
So can't quite get there on anything else. But that's the guy. Palmer and Odden, I think, are the 2 pass catchers. Even though Bucky Irving's interesting on the receptions now with another wide receiver down here tonight for Tampa.
You might even get to see both of them, both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving on the field, and Bucky Irving lined up at wide receiver instead of running back.
That's exactly how Tampa drew it up at the beginning of the year, right, Ryan?
Yeah,
not good at all for the Bucs. Who, boy, it's kind of crazy at the beginning of last month with the football and a lead late against Atlanta, looking to get one off the division rival, and since then it's not gone well for the Bucs. Who really injuries have done them in, and if they lose tonight, 2 full games behind Atlanta, with Atlanta having an extra game on them because of the series sweep. It's not looking pretty, especially with the NFC right now, where you have 2 teams in the NFC North who are pretty clearly going to get the 10 wins, and that's not even including Detroit, who may get to 15 wins when this is all said. And what a sentence. Detroit Lions, 15 wins, but it's in play. But, boy, it's uphill battle for the
they finished 15-2. I hope you got the Jared Goff MVP.
I feel pretty good about that if we get there. I did get it. I just didn't bet it big enough, Ryan. Of course, naturally. It is kind of funny looking at the NFC playoff picture where it's like, whoa, it's only November 4th, and we're only halfway home, but the playoff picture looks pretty darn clear at this point, where 1 bid out of the NFC South, 1 bid out of the NFC West. Washington is in great shape. Philadelphia is in great shape. And then Minnesota and Green Bay are in great shape. I mean, again, crazy stuff can happen. We know. But if you gave me some sort of odds where I'm just trying to pick who wins the NFC West and give me the other 6, I'd very happily find that. I wonder if one of the books that aren't in Nevada put that up. We'll put that up at some point this week.
Yeah.
Because I think you can get there. By the way, Arizona Cardinals and the LA Rams right now, both on with 3-game winning streaks. That NFC West has gotten very interesting. And I wonder if any of those teams will make an appearance in my power rankings this week. I know the Rams made one already in yours.
They did.
So I wonder, after yesterday's bizarre game against Seattle, I wonder how those all held up there. All right. Speaking of power rankings, we'll take a 1-minute break. When we get back, Ryan and I unveil our top 10 in college football. The committee's putting their 12 out tomorrow. Maybe Ryan and I will have our own mock brackets later this week or next week with the committee starting tomorrow. We want to at least see that first before we start mocking our own playoff brackets. But our top 10s in college when we get back here on Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in. Boy, sorry for the laughter right out of the gate. Drew Dog forgot how numbers work there. We're happy to be with you.
I like to count to 10.
You know what? You cut it in half. I'll give you that on that. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick, Vinny will join us in a few moments. Our top 10s in college football. We'll start with mine. And this is a very different look because I will say that I made a huge mistake on one team the last few weeks. Clemson was always overrated by me because we went through it on Friday last week, Ryan, where Clemson, the teams they beat all stunk. And Louisville was really the second best team they played all year. And Louisville beat the snot out of them for the most part. And credit to Louisville, who, you look at Louisville's 3 losses, they're as good as anyone's losses in the whole country, Notre Dame, SMU, and Miami. So Louisville, just bad luck with the schedule more so than anything, could have legitimately been in a college football playoff discussion if it wasn't for as brutal of their schedule. They demolished Clemson. I actually moved Clemson all the way down to 17. I moved them down 11 spots because,
I've got them right there too.
Yeah,
we've got
moved them way down.
A weird amount of similarities.
Now, I will tell you, the weirdness in the Big 12 made this a lot more difficult because Iowa State losing to Texas Tech at home is one thing. Iowa State's kind of just found ways in close games this year. Kansas State losing when up by 9 in the fourth quarter to Houston.
That was brutal.
That's another thing where I was not, because I was actually thinking, maybe I'll put Kansas State in my top 10 with the way they've stabilized after the BYU debacle. Now, Kansas State now is going to need a bolo to help to make the college football playoff. BYU's still not there. I'm still not buying them. A&M gets beat pretty soundly by South Carolina, so they're gone.
I think I still have Sandstorm stuck in my head.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have it for a while, unfortunately. Of course, Ohio State beats Penn State in a coin flip game that Penn State really blew more so than anything. But here we go. I'll tell you this, and I know some will disagree with me. I have Boise State at 11.
Okay,
so
I don't have them there.
So I know that everyone's going to disagree with me on that, but when you have the best player in the country, and you also now have a quarterback who actually looks really darn good. Now, it'll be interesting to see where they get in the seeding if they make the college football playoff. But that's where I'm at right now. Them and SMU are the almost famous, and LSU are the next 11 through 13 that just missed. Bama's 10. If LSU wins this week, Bama will go. LSU will likely hop everyone and move back into the top 10. Tennessee's 9. I don't think they weren't overly impressive again, but they just keep winning games. They get Georgia in 2 weeks. We'll get a better feel for them then. Miami's 8. Down 11 in the third quarter to Duke. They did come back and cover, so credit to them on that. Miami is a cakewalk to the ACC championship game at this point. It should be them and the Ponies at this point in Charlotte, what will be a tremendous game for that auto bid and likely the 3 seed in the college football playoff. Penn State's at 7. In the end, the offense is still just not good enough. Defense is more than good enough, even though they were pretty soft at the end of that game where Ohio State just ran it down their throat to end the game. But offense, this was supposed to be where they took the step forward. And I know Aller was not 100%, but boy, that's a game Penn State's got to find a win, and James Franklin just finds a way to lose them all. Ole Miss vaults all the way to 6 because here's the thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss is good, might be as good as anyone's good in the entire country. Now, they're not good is well worse than the left side of your screen here. Maybe not Notre Dame, but at least the top 4. But when Dart's on, that team is extraordinarily difficult to defend, and that defense is underrated to me still. They play Georgia this week. It's an elimination game for the Rebels because they can't make it with 3 losses. But boy, what a spot for them with Georgia kind of limping in a little bit, even with the win in the cocktail party last week. Notre Dame's at 5. They've been awesome since the disaster against Northern Illinois. Very curious to see how they look. Forget these next 2 games. USC could be playing for a bowl bid the final week of the season at the Coliseum. Interesting to see how Notre Dame fares against a team that's underachieving but talented in USC. Texas at 4, didn't move on the bye. Ohio State, I didn't move, kept them at 3. Them, Georgia, and Oregon are separated by a half a point. They're all basically the same. Georgia slightly ahead of Ohio State still. Oregon slightly ahead of Georgia. If you put them on a neutral, I'd basically all make them pick at this point. And if we get those matchups again, whatever happens, wouldn't shock me. But at this point, one of those 3 teams probably is your national champion. But in a year that's been cockeyed, Ryan, anything's in play here.
Yeah, no, it's football. So, any given Saturday, any given Sunday. So whatever day of the week you want to pick, it's an any given. But we have the exact same top 4. I have Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas. Oregon vaults Georgia to be number one because Dan Lanning continues to put on a masterclass at coaching. You go in to Michigan, and then you have that fourth down where you completely spread out the field. Like nobody sees a punt formation like that.
No.
And then you schemed it up to where Michigan wouldn't know what they were doing. They were going to put a man over the center, which you can't do on a punt, and you get a free first down. We saw them do it against Ohio State, put a 12th man on the field.
Yeah, to change the rule.
Like Dan Lanning is a fantastic head coach, and if he's going to continue to show you flaws in the rule book, Oregon's going to be your national champion. They doesn't matter the neutral site you put them on. I will pick them to beat any other team if Dan Lanning is going to continue to show you why he's the best coach in college football. I get Kirby Smart. He needs bulletin board material, and if Georgia doesn't have it, they are susceptible to a loss. Ohio State is number 3. I liked what I saw them beating Penn State, but Penn State stays at 5 because of how that game went. 1 through 4, I think, are capable of winning a national championship. Below that, no. Penn State's not going to win the national championship. Tennessee, Bama, none of these teams are going to win the national championship.
The Notre Dame one's the only one that's interesting, but I don't think they're good enough at quarterback with Riley Leonard in order to beat those high-end teams. It does not matter. It is Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a history, figure some things out to finish this year strong. And then, Jeff's point, Alabama-LSU is going to be a very telltale matchup, just like I had a couple weeks ago with Texas A&M and LSU. Texas A&M laid an egg at South Carolina, which is a very difficult place to play. But this is my top 10. Congratulations to Notre Dame and Miami for finally making it in. We'll bring Vinny in. There's no other way to respond to that. Vinny, once you're all settled, the first question that I have for you is actually going to be about Alabama and LSU, because we asked Chris about Georgia and Ole Miss. And Alabama and LSU is an elimination game at this point in this new college football format. Both teams have 2 losses. Alabama's kind of lucky that Ryan Williams and Jalen Miller made that play against Georgia, or else this would almost be hey, we might be going to Las Vegas. No disrespect to the Las Vegas Bowl, but that's not where Alabama wants to be when it's all said and done.
And not the first year after Saban either.
No, not at all. But Vinny, this is always a fascinating game. It's always usually the game of the year in college football. It's not quite that. It's not even the best game in a conference this week because Georgia and Ole Miss is. But LSU is a home dog again. Mm-hmm. We saw this against Ole Miss. LSU won outright. And Vinny, it kind of just shows to me that Alabama, at least to the behind the counters power rankings, that Alabama is considerably ahead of LSU, with the fact that this is a game at Tiger Stadium at night, which is the largest home field advantage in the country, and probably by margin, in all honesty.
Well, good to be with you, gentlemen, and
good to see you.
Love the passion.
Yeah, always.
That's good. That's good. Hey, listen, that's what you're putting your money up. You've got to create your power ratings, and that's a good thing. I think, look, even though Alabama has stumbled, right? They're coming into this game probably also better prepared, right? And in term rested, a little more rested. They're just stronger. I mean, and again, listen, just remember this too. When we see point spreads and things like that, and people say, even if a team loses, like if Alabama loses to LSU this week, and so there'll be some people out there say, you guys were wrong. No, we're not wrong. We're talking about creating the number to what people are going to bet. Because if we were wrong, then this game would be picked by now.
Right.
Right? I mean, and if everybody thought that. We're not in the prediction business, okay? We're in the line making and bookmaking business. 2 separate functions that work in conjunction, but you've got the line making part of it, and then of course, there's the bookmaking part of it. So the fact of the matter is that Alabama's losses and wins are higher rated than what LSU has done so far.
Okay, and
therein lies, the point spread. Therein lies the power rating for that. So now it may go maybe it'll go to pick. I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
But the point is that Bama too, again, probably a bit more consistent. I think there's more trust, even though there's a new coach there, and this is the second year for Chip Kelly, right? So, yeah. So,
Wait.
Brian
Kelly. Brian Kelly's year three now.
Yeah, year 3.
Chip's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
He's Ohio State. But I'm just saying, Kelly is there now for 3 years, and there's still, I think, more trust in Alabama's program and strength, even with a coach in his first year.
You know, it's very interesting the way that you just walk through that, because if you look at LSU's schedule, and both of these teams have played hard schedules. It's just the nature of playing in the SEC at this point.
It's the top-rated conference in the country.
LSU and Alabama have common opponents in South Carolina, where where Gamecocks are good.
They're good.
There's no arguing that anymore after they took out A&M over the weekend in pretty dramatic fashion when it was all said and done. Both Alabama and LSU beat South Carolina by one possession. LSU needed to come from way back to win that game. Alabama needed to stop a 2-point conversion at the end to win that game. It is very interesting that everything for Alabama still lines up better, at least resume-wise. And I just really think more so than anything, Vinny, and correct me if I'm wrong, that win against Georgia carries so much weight.
Even though that the second half was, the game was a tale of two halves, right? Obviously, Alabama dominant in the first half, and then Georgia in the second. But yeah, there's no question about it, because they beat the 2-time defending national champions, who are, by the way, they're number 1 in my power rating by a point over Oregon. So
Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah, and then
Texas 4.
Texas number 4.
Gap between the top 4 and then number 5.
Not much. I've got Bama number 5. So and then I've got Mississippi. By the way, Notre Dame would be favored over Penn State after last week.
I don't have a problem.
Slightly.
Even though we both have. Well, actually, I have Notre Dame ahead of Penn State.
Yeah,
you have Penn State ahead of Notre Dame.
Okay.
I mean, for Notre Dame, you really have to, at this point, for Notre Dame, chalk up that game against Northern Illinois as just a 1 in 100 fluke. And again, this is one of the weaker schedule Notre Dame has had in goodness a long time, but you can't discount.
I think it looked more daunting going into the season than it's playing out, right?
Look at this week. Florida State is supposed to be a national championship contender, and Florida State's going to go 2-10. So, when you look at some of these games, right? The look ahead, our game of the year, Florida State, Notre Dame, was 5. Yeah, that was 26.
Yeah. So I'm just So obviously. But my point is, if you look at Notre Dame's schedule going into the season, it was certainly a lot stronger, at that point than what it's turned out to be. But they have to play. They have to take care of business.
Games,
and if they run their table, okay, they don't have a championship game. But if they run the table, they're going to be in the playoff.
If Notre Dame goes 11-1, forget being in the playoff. They're hosting a round 1 matchup.
Yeah,
they're hosting.
They'll be
a game. They'll either be the 7 or the 8 seed at that point. Maybe even the 6 seed if the right results happen around the country. I do need to ask you about this, because this is a line that I don't think any of us in a million years would have ever expected to see.
Okay,
and I think you know where I'm going here. The undefeated, outright and against the spread champions so far this year, the Indiana Hoosiers, who are 9-0, as a 2-touchdown favorite against Michigan, which is, again, a year after Michigan won the national title last year, and Indiana's 14 against. And by the way, it's the right number. No, it hasn't moved since you guys opened it. So at least initially, that's the right number. I'll just ask you this with Indiana, Vinny. Indiana wins this game. I don't care if they cover or not. They get Ohio State in the shoe after a bye. That
dangerous.
That is not an easy game for Ohio State with the way they've played the last few weeks.
Well, I think, again, when you look at Michigan, they lost a tremendous amount. I mean, And we've talked about it to where when you combine Michigan and Washington, the two teams that were in the national championship game last year, they had over 20, almost 25 guys drafted in the NFL draft this year, more than any two other teams combined.
Washington returned one starter, Michigan returned four starters. Yeah.
So, but even depth-wise, I mean, you look at it just, Washington had a mass exodus with the transfer portal. Michigan did I think it was kind of a wait and see by a lot of recruits and a lot of transfers waiting to see, even though an established coach, right? He had to coach games when Harbaugh was out last year. So you had it was a. I don't think it was a non. It wasn't a proven commodity.
Yep.
But I think it was kind of a wait and see. So there's a ripple effect to all of that, But now you've also got a coach in Indiana whose team has a proven record everywhere he's gone.
Yep.
You've got a team that's taken on his belief and his toughness, and look. It's the right combination of players too. We talked the other day, Jeff, about the transfer portal, right? You've got a solid program, let's say, okay, and all of a sudden you get an influx of 20 transfers that are all real good. Well, guess what? It's too much. It might be too much. So the chemistry, you got to make the chemistry work too, because everybody's an All-American. Everybody's terrific. Everybody wants to go to a win. God, it's happening in the NFL now. You're seeing where guys are – the trade deadline, guys are requesting, I want to go to Washington. I want to go to Detroit. Everybody wants to go. Not everybody can be the player, the big dog. But getting back to Indiana, it's a buy-in of a culture very quickly, and it's proven to be successful.
I'm just going back to the conversation that Alex, myself, and Bud Elliott had back in the summer around Bet Bash,
Last August.
Indiana came up in that conversation.
Okay,
where that was one of Bud's favorite conference win totals over that cashed three weeks ago now. But it was one of those, and we had a long discussion last Friday about the transfer portal in college football. You, me, and Chris, Vinny. And Indiana is the one where you see what happens when it goes right.
Yes.
Because Indiana basically, to Signetti's credit, because Signetti obviously was amazing at James Madison.
He was coach of the year wherever he was,
pretty
right? Or
at
least in the conversation.
As he said, he wins. But he knew basically all the elite players in the Sun Belt, and he got most of the elite players in the Sun Belt that go to Indiana for this year. And you know what? The Sun Belt All-Star teams held up pretty darn well, obviously, in the Big Ten.
Because not all transfers have to come from the Power Four conferences.
Of course.
So there's really good players at, the non-Power Four schools and non-Power Four conferences. And again, he also knew the personalities.
Yes.
I think. Even if you don't coach, you obviously don't coach the players on the other team, but you interact with, you see how they play against you, okay? And you can evaluate talent. That's why when a coach, let's say there's an all-star game, okay? And a coach coaches one team, but when comes time for the all-star, the best coaches are going to be objective, and they're not just going to take their players. They're going to say, you know what, I'm going to take the best players from all these teams because you know them.
Yep.
If you know who your good players are, a really good coach is going to know who the opposition's good players are. And I think Signetti has really demonstrated that and put that philosophy into a very successful program.
It's incredible. Again, we knew we were going to get some weird stuff with this new format, but I don't think anyone dreamed Indiana as, hey, if Indiana handles their business as a 2-touchdown favorite this week, they're going to be a gigantic favorite against Purdue the final week, which it's going to be a lot of fun to see the bettors bet Purdue one last time, which again, if you bet Purdue, you lost again last week to Northwestern.
They'll bet them again this week,
Oh,
Jeffrey.
no, trust me. Look,
it's obligatory.
And Vinny, when they covered against Illinois, it was the only thing we could hear. By the way, that's they're at Ohio State. What are they, 38 at Ohio State, Vinny? Is that right?
Yeah. You got it.
There you go. So
why not?
Boy, geez. Before we go, Vinny, latest action on tonight's game?
went to, I think we sniffed 8.5, but not
Yep.
back to 9.
Back to 9. Okay.
Right, tonight. And the total 46.
Shouldn't have blinked.
So,
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. See, being on the air, but you still have to have your phone, right? You got to multitask.
Yeah.
I mean, you got this great setup, right?
No, it's not. It seemingly has got a little less astro-orbity the last few days, Vinny.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of wires down there. You and Sirocco, I mean, it's pick
gotta
'em
make
for
sure
the-
it doesn't die on me.
Sirocco is
the number of wires down here. Wow.
No,
Wow, man.
the wires and the gavel is going to scare you there, Vinny, right?
Yeah, and here's my laptop. This is my
So-
college hoops laptop.
I'm not even going to ask you about that, but I'm going to tell you right now, Vinny.
It's a couple of games today.
Just a couple.
You know my history with betting college basketball. You know I'm a volume better when it comes to college hoops. Today even intimidated me a little bit, which is saying something.
Yeah, quite a few games out there, right?
Yeah, which right now
Just the added games alone.
No, my favorite bet of the day actually is going right now, and right now I should win this. Harvard -3, up 14 with 2.5 to go on Marist. See, take a little trip to Poughkeepsie there to go get Marist.
Why
there.
not?
Right? Why not? Right?
Up the Hudson.
Yeah, there we go. Vinny, pleasure as always. Ryan,
Good job, guys.
Just a quick
Quick note,
note
real
on,
quick.
on college basketball.
Yeah.
So between men's and women's,
yeah,
360 scheduled games today in Division I teams.
Yeah.
That's the second
Men
most
and
played
women.
on a single day, behind 378 in November of 2022.
how was that many in November? I guess there were more D1 v D1 this go around, and a lot of teams were still playing.
Yeah.
354.
No, there's more
men's
teams today than there
yeah,
were 2 years ago.
yeah.
That's why I'm a little surprised at that. But I guess there have been more D1 versus D1 thing. Ryan, before we go, does anyone have anything interesting for us today?
Yeah, we had a pretty good chat. We got Lalea in there talking. Lalea and Jerry talking crap about Carson Beck. You're going to be selling cars.
Hold on a second. Jerry, do you know who Carson Beck is?
Yeah, the Georgia quarterback. You got
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
But
Jerry knows.
selling cars in 5 years, and then we had Carson Beck.
Oh.
Yeah, and then
No.
and then Vince gave us Carson Beck and Derek Carr. Apparently, there was a theme this episode. We got Bob Custer thinking, who knows? Maybe Baker Mayfield can lead the upset tonight. A Gold, Turbo Duran. We got a lot of good action today.
Turbo
Good.
Duran?
It's
Roberto Duran.
Roberto Duran? Yeah, just we're naming Durans now, right?
yeah.
Yeah, there we go. All right, well,
Good job.
good luck to everyone playing something out there tonight. I know we'll be in action already.
Yep.
I'm in on Trey Palmer at least.
Over on the game.
Over on the game. And, Kelsey. We'll be
Kate
on
Otten,
Kelsey
Kareem
props
Hunt.
too. Yeah. Look, tomorrow, 9 a.m., it is not quite the college basketball card, but Alex and Kenny White will have a full hockey card to talk about tomorrow morning. And they'll be looking ahead to the week of college football, which does begin with some action tomorrow night. And in the NFL as well. We'll see you again at 9 a.m. with Alex and Kenny. Ryan, good job. Vinny, good job. Jerry, Drew Dog, and Sean, Caden, wherever you all may be. We'll see you again at 9 a.m. with Alex and Kenny here on Sports by the Book.